6:33, morning to you. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie.
And let's take a look at today's front pages for you now. And Sajid Javid has declared that a pay-per-appointment A&E and GP system would be crucial in saving money for the NHS. That's on the cover of The Times.
Labour has a woman problem, says one of Keir Starmer's female MPs. That's on the front of the Mail this morning.
Keep children at home during teaching strikes. That's the warning on the cover of The Eye after teachers across the country voted to strike in February and in March.
The Express warning that high street banks could be obsolete by 2027, which is a sort of very specific date to choose, isn't it, as branches are closing across the country.
Holidays are receiving a boost, says The Telegraph, after EU delays its fingerprint checks for arriving holidaymakers.
Another fine mess for Sunak graces the cover of the Mirror after he was fined for being driven without a seatbelt.
The Sun is talking about Charles's underwear this morning. That's King Charles. He's been told to break the tradition of wearing silk breeches. Well,
silk breeches?
A bit different, isn't it?
Well, that's a thought. Also, has the key to eternal youth been found? You only have to look at me to know it has. The Star thinks so, running the story that sound therapy could reverse signs of ageing. Oh, now I need to read that then, because I have actually booked me and my better half in for what they call a gong bath.
A what? You do great things.
On Sunday. So gong. So you go to, my sister-in-law told me about it and said it's really just relaxing. You go and someone plays one of those gongs where you just
like that.
Yeah, and you lie there for an hour and you just get surrounded by the sound, and apparently you come out feeling amazing. So we're going to try it on Sunday night, 6 p.m.
And you might come back looking like 18 years old. Oh, let us know how that goes. Do a video for us.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to do just before I turn 50. It'd be nice to then
reverse the
turn
clock.
back the clock 30
yeah,
years.
Lovely.
Brilliant.
You always do fun things.
Yeah, well, you've got to try and do little interesting things, haven't you? It's not expensive.
Right, should we do some work? Time to go through the papers now. And joining us this morning is broadcaster and journalist Claire Muldoon and the political editor of HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield. Good morning to both of you. Very happy to have you both with us. Claire, should we start with you? And parents are being told to keep their children at home.
This is the front page. Yeah, the front page of the Eye. Keep
rather than send them up the chimneys when there's
during
a
school strikes. Head teachers tell parents, but the reason they're doing this is because they say it's a management issue. Because under striking laws in the UK, if you are going on strike, you don't actually have to inform your employer. I would have thought that being teachers, I think they would have and they will inform their head teacher so that they can manage. But the result from this article is the fact that head teachers are now saying, just don't bother coming in. Don't send your kids into school on the days of the strikes. We won't know if your teacher is there because of this excuse. So therefore, just keep them at home. I think that's an absolute travesty.
Why?
I think it's because they've been at home for so long during the pandemic.
But what are they meant to do?
Well, they can manage children. They can get supply teachers in, or they could amalgamate the classes, or at least there could be work there. But the absolute problem this is going to present for parents who are working, don't send your child to school. I mean, the children are there to learn. Okay, I think this is an absolute travesty because they're not learning.
But what we got in the 80s, when there was a lot of teachers' strikes, was you went to, we used to love it. Turn up at school and they had a big sheet of slips, and they used to sign everyone's name and give you a slip to say your teacher's on strike.
Yeah.
Now go home. So we're wandering around the town all day.
Oh no, but I mean they can. There's facilities there.
Do that?
Well, yeah, in Scotland there was a lot.
There were.
Well, there were a lot of teacher strikes, and as a kid, it's great.
You've
got a day off school.
That wasn't in the back of a pandemic, Kate.
No, exactly. But what I'm saying is that this is why I think these strikes potentially will be the most disruptive of all the strikes that are going on, because the knock-on effect for parents, and you don't appreciate it until you're a parent yourself.
Yep.
God, you've got to find childcare or some sort of alternative thing, or you stay off work yourself, and a lot of people don't get paid if they don't go to work.
Yep.
So I think
and a lot of parents aren't members of union because they won't be have the ability to strike and wake up one day and I don't actually fancy this today. I'm going on strike. I'm stopping being a parent. You can't do that. You still have the parents, you still have the children that you need to educate and look after.
I was talking to the National Education Union this week, so I was out reporting on it, and I didn't realise that there's no onus on the teacher to set work during a strike, which makes sense because you're striking. But so during the pandemic, you obviously had work set for you that the parents could then deliver to their children, but during a strike, they don't have to do that. So the parents have to find the resources in order to do the teaching. But then they also said this isn't just about pay, this is about retention of staff and even attracting them in the first place, because at the moment, a teacher's salary, teacher's lifestyle, the working conditions, it's not attractive.
Well, but what is it? They say that about GPs as well. That's why there's the less amount of GPs that we need. They're not hitting the targets because they're not accessible. They're not attractive jobs. I mean, for heaven's sake, how much of a job does it need to be? Do you need to be attracted to it before you do it? These are standard jobs. These are really important jobs. I think the trouble with teachers is there's not enough importance based on the fact of how much they actually do. They are social workers, they are feeders, they are educators, they are parents in some cases. They do an awful lot in regards to under the umbrella of teaching. So, you know, that's a separate issue.
So do you think they should be paid more?
I think realistically, yes, they should, because especially in London, you can't attract and you can't keep the retention. What we're talking about, you can't keep them because they can't afford to live.
And then
Yes, but what I don't get is you seem to be against the strikes, but saying, well, they deserve what they're asking for.
Well, I haven't actually looked into how much they are asking for, and I don't know how long it's been since they've actually had a pay increase. What I don't like is the fact of teachers going on strike. In the 80s, we had the EIS and another union, and the Head Teachers Union, and the Head Teachers Union very rarely went on strike, so therefore there was enough other staff to look after us as children. But here, the staff, I think it's a mismanagement for the head teacher just to come out and say, no, just don't bother sending your kid to school.
Yeah.
They got
a 5%, just to clarify on that one, only because I did it this week. 5% pay rise in 2022, which they say isn't in line with inflation. And at the moment, any pay rise comes out of a pre-existing school budget. So if you're paying your teachers more, it essentially means
schools have lost their budget. Schools don't have the money.
Yeah, and it basically means you don't get a classroom assistant that year or something like that.
Assistants.
We'd never had classroom assistants. No. We didn't. But we didn't. We had about one textbook per table or whatever. I mean, do you remember? But
and you were grateful.
We did all right.
Did you have shoes?
Oh, I had shoes. Yeah, we had shoes. There was a shoe factory near us, so we used shoes. Good. Kevin, Rosie Duffield, a Labour MP, has said Labour has a woman problem.
Yeah, she's written an article for the Unheard website, which has got massive coverage today, unsurprisingly. Rosie Duffield is an interesting MP in that she's been, I would say, rather estranged from the Labour Party for quite some time. She's been at odds with, not just with Keir Starmer, Jeremy Corbyn. She wasn't a fan of Jeremy Corbyn. She came in for a lot of abuse then as well, so this isn't a new thing. But what's brought to a head this time is the whole gender ID debate. Obviously, it was in the Commons during the week because the UK government has decided to block this law in Scotland, which was hugely controversial, and it exposed the divisions in all the parties, really, but particularly, I think, it's difficult for Labour, and I think this just demonstrates it. I think when she was giving her contribution to the debate, she was being shouted down. She wasn't the only female MP to be shouted down by male MPs, it has to be said, but she's written this piece, and you know, it's quite astonishing, and it's come at a time when Keir Starmer is desperate not to scare the horses. Labour are miles in front in the polls. We're less than 2 years from an election. They just want things to be calm and uncontroversial.
But I mean, the problem is, on this whole issue, Rosie Duffield's made some pretty strong anti-trans comments, hasn't she? So is she pushing an agenda here?
Well, I mean, she definitely has her views, and the difficulty there, I think, for Labour is that Labour don't really seem to have a hard and fast position on this issue. They're even split between Keir Starmer and the Scottish Labour Party because they voted for these changes in Scotland, albeit with maybe some caveats. But now down here, Labour are desperate not to be pinned down to any position. And Rosie Duffield was coming out and saying, well, look, this is my position and I'm being pilloried for it. And now I don't feel at home really in the Labour Party. And it's not the type of headlines that Keir Starmer wants to see when, as I say, he's trying not to.
Her
be
narrative,
controversial.
her narrative is very powerful because she explains in that unheard article the fact that she's left an abusive relationship with her ex-partner, and she actually akins the same feeling that she has when she was going through that relationship to the relationship she has with the party. That she, don't forget, there was a very strong Conservative majority that she managed to overturn in Canterbury, I think, is her constituency. And what she did was she liked a tweet from someone else saying about the biological difference between men and women, and that's what kicked the whole thing off. I don't think particularly she is anti-trans. I wouldn't say she comes out as being anti-trans because she puts very much value on every single human being. She might not like the agenda that has been pushed by some camps within the transgender community, but she is there to be an advocate for the people that have elected her, and therefore, surely, as a member of the Labour Party, of which there are more women MPs in the Labour Party than any other in the House of Commons, surely she should have an arm of support from somewhere in the party, and yet she's saying that she doesn't. To me, I'm not Labour, I'm not Conservative, I'm politically homeless. I've said it all along, but as a woman, I find that really quite disheartening.
It's pretty toxic when she says, she couldn't, in all honesty, go out onto the doorsteps in the next election and tell women to vote for the Labour Party. That's going to set alarm bells.
Yeah.
I would say, in the Labour Party.
Claire, let's have a look at Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and his fine for not wearing a seatbelt. This is in the Mirror.
It's almost
the Mirror's loving it, obviously.
the Mirror is a very, very pro-Labour paper, but it's just as bad as eating cake, you would think. Another fine mess, Sunak punished for seatbelt blunder video. I missed what your viewers were saying about this, because you had quite a few GB views. It'd be interesting to hear what our viewers thought.
Tony says it's not a very big deal.
Yep.
Roger says, who cares? I'm more concerned about who filmed it. He says there's more important things to worry about. And Keith's questioning how it even happened, because you should get an alarm going off if you're not wearing a belt.
Yeah, some cars do do that, but some people don't even realise you have to wear a seatbelt in the back anymore. I mean, it's his responsibility. He's been fined for it. That's the law. End of.
Yeah.
It's hugely embarrassing, and also, he's now got more fixed penalty notices than Boris Johnson.
But at least he's held his hands up to it. I mean, not that he's got much of a choice, really. Yeah. But it should just be tomorrow's chip paper, shouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in one sense, you're right. It's a relatively minor infraction. However, it is just embarrassing, you know. And it's the type of headlines that the Prime Minister could well do without. And there will be advisors who are responsible for, one, getting it filmed, two, checking it. Because these things are signed off by so many people before they go online. Yeah. Because the potential for disaster is huge. But for whoever didn't spot it, it's
mind you, I do think for we should effectively, anyone who wants to be really critical of this on a political level, we should have cameras on every politician from every party as they get out of cabs at Westminster and see if they're wearing a seatbelt in the back of a black cab. Because most people don't.
Well,
I don't in the back of a black cab. No. I don't think you need to.
You do, yes, it's the law.
Really?
Yes, it's the law.
Really?
Yeah.
We found that out here this morning.
Gosh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I thought in the back of a black cab you didn't have to.
No, and there is a sign in the back of a black cab saying it is the law to wear a seatbelt.
Well, I think there isn't a suggestion that he had it on and unclipped it to do...
Well, maybe.
You know what I mean? But he's still... In your mind, you're thinking, I should probably
I don't
not
actually care.
unclip it
I really
while I'm in the
don't
car.
care. I really don't care.
But I just think there's a danger here for a lot of hypocrisy from people. And I bet there's loads of people on the Labour benches and other benches who've been in black cabs and not worn a seatbelt. So everyone's culpable.
But the one group will be laughing their heads off, not just Labour, is Johnson supporters, because, they don't like Rishi Sunak anyway. And they think, I think he likes to come across as a sort of school prefect, and now look at him. He's been fined again by the police twice inside a year, so they'll be laughing their heads off.
We've got time for one more, have we?
Oh, yes.
What do you want to do, Kevin? I'll give you a choice here. Banks or King Charles's stockings?
How can you put it like that? How can you possibly not talk about King Charles's stockings?
You have to do the stocking one. I don't know anything about it.
So obviously his coronation is in May, and he's been advised, and it looks like he's taken this advice, that he should not dress as the son of mocked him up, like off the...
Why not?
Like Hamilton, because
in his silk breeches and stocking.
Because it's just not, obviously, very 21st century. It's old-fashioned, and he wants to be a modern king.
But there's nothing
So he's going to be
modern.
nothing
he's going to be
modern
in
about
military
this.
uniform.
Yeah.
The coronation.
No.
Well, but I think the whole thing is going to be very sort of downsized, certainly from when his mother was coronated. Is that a word?
Crowned.
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 That's probably a better word.
Past that.
Crowned. The
70
number
years
of-
ago.
the
You
number
must
of-
have been striking that day. You
Yeah.
must have been striking that day.
When she was crowned,
Yeah.
it was obviously all the bells and whistles and lots of gold and what have you and finery. Whereas he wants it to be a bit more stripped down. Cost of living crisis as well. It just doesn't look great.
Well, he stripped the guest list down as well. I doubt if
Yeah.
Harry
Well,
and
no,
Meghan
but
will
that's
come.
but that was refuted a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
This whole business about it being pared down a couple of weeks ago was being refuted.
Right.
I can't remember who by now, but we had David Starkey on. He was talking about it.
Yeah.
So it was meant to be going back to the whole shebang.
Oh wow, right. Well, I mean, I just don't think that's a good look, is it? In the
I don't
current
know. Just
climate?
Don't ask
Come
Stephen.
through.
He clearly loves it.
I do love it.
Silk stockings and breeches just had him.
I just sort of think it's tradition. What's wrong? We should embrace tradition, shouldn't we?
Well, yeah, but according to this, it says the monarch has opted to wear military uniform instead.
Oh.
So apparently he has decided that he's not going to dress like that.
Like
To be honest with you, I can't blame him. He's going to be a little bit more, still formal, but not
Explain
over
it,
the
Kevin.
top
What,
like that.
looking like what? What of this?
Oh, yeah,
this
on the-
unlocked him
yeah,
up
you better
with
hold
this?
it up.
Let me hold
yeah.
it up then to camera 6. There you go. I don't know if you can zoom in on that or not. But it's yes, it's. I mean, it's all sort of ermine and silk stockings, and there you go.
See, I quite like that look.
I like that.
And I think we do pomp and pageantry very well in this country. I don't think it's a bad thing to see it on
yeah,
display.
no.
I mean,
I think
Looks
the
like
all over
Charles
the world
doesn't agree.
tuning in.
The lovely thing about tradition is it links the past, the present, and the future.
Yes.
And I'm very much a traditionalist as well, and I really, really like it.
Do you want to see him in stockings then, or are you happy with the military uniform?
Not personally,
No.
but in term when the time comes for him to be crowned at the coronation, I think yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. Your
Being
thoughts
told,
on that?
being told it's time. Enough
Yes.
on the stockings, apparently.
Yes. So
Kevin
you two
is
can go now. Thank you very much indeed. We'll see you a little bit later on.